We're looking at something that I call up in smoke, because all of these images are gone. I mean, literally up in smoke. They don't exist anymore. I did these back around 1990, and the place where I did them had a number of unfortunate fires. Actually, there was arson, and these things all burnt down, all burned up in the fire. They were really my first experience of doing non-objective artwork. Pieces that had no attempt to try to represent something. I mean, it's non-representational art. A person might call it abstract, but I don't, because it's really not an abstraction of anything. It's non-objective. There's no attempt to portray or represent any object at all. I mean, sometimes there are objects that I put on them, found objects, but there's no representation here, no attempt to represent an object. It was an interesting experience for me because I hadn't done these things before I moved into the old factory out at Grapeville. Moving in there, I formed a nonprofit corporation to manage the project, and there were a number of other artists there, people who did various kinds of art, and there was even several people from the National Park Service living there. They wanted to, they just liked the place, and they were working locally, and they wanted to be there, so there was no reason they couldn't live there. And there was an architect, and one summer we had a writer living there, and we had painters and sculptors, various kinds of people in the arts. It was quite an experience. One of the best things I ever did, really. And this came out of that experience, doing these things. It was a surprise to me because I hadn't been doing non-objective work. And just the experience of being there in a totally different kind of environment and having available a lot of materials that I didn't previously have available. For example, these are done on glass pallets. They were the pallets that the glass work was put on when they come out of the production process. They were wooden pallets, not as big as the kind of pallets you think of that are moved around by forklifts. They were smaller things, and there was a lot of old paint left in the factory, and you'll see these. This is one where I used four different pallets, and this is one pallet and a found object. That was, these were the things from the center of a spool of roofing material. I did a lot of roofing there. And there were stencils that I found there. I used them to spray paint through. And these were signs that I found in the old factory. A lot of good things happened there. That was a sign from a women's restroom. Some of these you'll see twice because they were several different versions of the same image done as part of a process of trying to recover these. These images are all made from 35 millimeter slides that I and a friend worked on to recover them, to salvage them, to save them, because these slides were getting older, and so they were made digital, and then the digital images were printed. It's actually a bit more complicated than that, but that'll be enough of the story. You see, this was a thing from a thing to letter parcels with. There was all kind of junk left in that factory. It was really a museum. It told the story of the bent glass industry, a real in-place museum. And I was working with the Park Service to make a museum out of it. And the place went down when the owner refused to talk to the township people. And I told him, I says, my last words to the man were, I says, if you continue to own this place, you're going to destroy it. And that's exactly what he did. He totally destroyed it by his refusal to deal with the government, local government. Because I moved out, and the Mainline Works Corporation moved out, and the arsonists moved in, and the place went up in smoke. It sits there today in Grapeville. It's a very interesting looking ruin, but still a ruin. And I see I'm about somewhere between 6 and 7 minutes, and I could do a lot of comments on these, but they're kind of superfluous. This was made with roofing material. Well, I'm gonna cut this short now because I don't want to make it too long. Hope you enjoyed it.